Gluten isn't bad for you, despite what people like to make you think. Many people believe that gluten is inflammatory, and people believe that it's something that you need to avoid in order to avoid chronic inflammation. And this might be the case for people that are celiac or have other gluten intolerances, such as IBS-related issues, but for the vast majority of people, gluten is actually a pretty good thing. In fact, there are several studies that have shown actually not including gluten in your diet can result in higher risk of cardiovascular disease. And further from that, actually, lots of people that think they have gluten problems actually don't. And it seems pretty clear through the data that many people that are convinced they're gluten intolerant or celiac actually have never been tested and have kind of self-diagnosed and actually don't really seem to have much of a problem with it. And further from this, for the vast majority of people, fiber is incredibly good for you. Carnivores would like to say to you that fiber is non-essential, whatever that means. It's incredibly hard to say that fiber is bad for you. Of course, there'll be a minority of people that struggle with fiber in their diet due to IBS or autoimmunity or something along those lines. But for the vast majority of people, I'm talking like 99% of people, having fiber in your diet is a really good idea for pretty much every single avenue of your health. For your metabolism, your gut health, your inflammation, cardiovascular disease risk, all of these things improve when you include more fiber in your diet. So with that massive precursor out of the way, let's get into the video. I'm going to walk you through a little sourdough bread recipe that's going to be absolutely amazing for your gut health. This is a recipe that involves as much fiber as you can possibly get into your bread, okay? The way we're going to do this is with chia seeds, which are a really good source of fiber, and also just some organic jumbo oats, another great source of soluble fiber like beta-glucans. So this bread here is going to be the best bread you can possibly make for your gut health. The stuff's kind of cool. And it is actually my own recipe, so I'm pretty chuffed about this. So if you've seen my last video, you'll understand that sourdough is an amazing inclusion in your diet, particularly homemade sourdough where you control everything that goes into that bread. It's an amazing source of prebiotic fibers that are incredibly good for your gut. Let's walk you through the recipe, shall we? So first up, we have 275 grams of water. If you use slightly warm water, then you'll get things going a little bit quicker in regard to fermentation. And then you want your sourdough starter. Now, you want to make sure your sourdough starter is ripe. I fed mine last night. So actually, I think mine's probably a little bit over. Yeah, I don't actually know if this is gonna work for me, I'll be honest, because this is definitely not ripe starter. You wanna make sure, oh no, it is, we're all good, we're all good. No, we're not. You want to make sure that your sourdough starter is ripe and ready to go. The best way of doing this is usually feeding it the night before in a ratio 5:1. So 1 part starter and then 5 parts water, 5 parts flour, okay? Just a strong white bread flour. Do that the night before and you should have a pretty good to go starter for baking. The way you test it, just let some of the starter drip off your spoon and it should float on the water surface before sinking. So you have your starter and your water, then you can literally just mix it up inside. And this just gets the starter dissolved in the water. And then 250 grams of strong white bread flour that goes in. And then 100 grams of a wholemeal flour. So we'll go up to the 350 gram mark total, yeah. So that's 100 grams of this, 250 grams of that. And then give it another mix. And then you're gonna want 7 grams of salt. I'm using table salt, oh, watch out. So sorry, it's not Celtic sea salt. This is lethal, watch out. This doesn't have 82 minerals in it. What's gonna happen? Wish me luck. All right, so 7 grams of salt. Just mix it all up. And as I say, you don't need to knead this. You can knead it at this first stage. You will get better structure, but you really don't need to. You can just give it a really rough mix. Then you'll have yourself a really nice kind of base dough, okay? Now, sourdough takes a lot longer to rise than normal bread. So this could take anywhere from 6 hours, but it sounds like a lot of work. It's really not. I mean, like literally at this point, if I wanted to, I could actually just leave this and it would probably still make a bread. By folding the bread every hour, you just ensure the bread has more structure. You end up with a better loaf at the end that kind of puffs up a lot more. When this bread is baked as is, it's already amazing for your gut. But the way we're gonna make this even more kind of potent for your gut and to get even more beneficial fiber in there, we're gonna use both chia seeds and organic jumbo oats. I'm gonna do a little jumbo oat crust on the top And I'm also gonna make a little chia and oat porridge that I'm then gonna kind of work into the dough itself, which will give a lovely flavor, loads of texture, and obviously massively bump up the amount of fiber in the bread. So now what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna let this rest for like half an hour at room temperature. And now I'm just gonna mix up a little butter porridge, which will be butter, oats, a tiny bit of milk. I'll put all the recipe ratios on screen here for that. I'll do chia seeds and water, mix them up into a little paste, let the porridge sit and cool down, and then in about 20 minutes, I'll work them into the dough. And it is definitely worth noting at this point, for those of you that are scared of phytic acid or are concerned about phytic acid leaching minerals or preventing the absorption of minerals like iron and calcium, you do typically find a lot of phytic acid in oats. Now, I'm personally not fussed because I eat a balanced diet, and I know that the effects of the phytic acid in the oats I eat won't be having a significant enough effect to my overall health because I eat a good, well-rounded, balanced diet with plenty of minerals in it. But if you are concerned and you do want to reduce phytic acid content, just know that this cooking and soaking process that we've just done with the oats will massively reduce the phytic acid content of the oats. Furthermore, the process of the sourdough fermentation massively reduces the phytic acid content of the flour as well, okay? So in regard to phytic acid and mineral absorption, you really don't need to be concerned about this recipe, okay? It's really not a problem, don't worry about it. So what I've got here is this like chia seed paste. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take this oat porridge, and it should be quite thick. You can see that it's quite thick here. Now I probably won't use all of this actually. I've done quite a lot. I've definitely done too much here. So I'll give you the exact amount you need to use for one loaf here. I've just pre-made this because I'll probably use this again for another loaf that I make. Mix that all up and you have this utterly vile looking fiber paste. Chia seeds are an amazing source of fiber. People like chia seeds as well because they think that they're going to be getting their omega-3s from chia seeds. Unfortunately, that's not really the case. Chia seeds contain ALA, which we do convert as humans into omega-3. However, we are really, really bad at doing this. It's something like 1% of the ALA we eat can be effectively converted to omega-3. So really, I hate to say it, chia seeds, they're not a good source of omega-3s in your diet. Even if they are marketed to be that way, they're really not. They are, however, still a very good source of some fats and a really, really good source of fiber. And they're really nutrient dense too. So you now have this high fiber gunk, okay? This is the type of stuff that carnivores have nightmares about. So this dough has now come together and rested for about half an hour. It's not rising just yet, but we are getting a nice bit of structure forming. So now it's time to kind of fold in this stuff. So you just kind of smear it into the dough. Let me walk around again. Smear it into the dough like that. You can just start working it in, basically. This is incredibly hard to do at that angle, but effectively, you just start working it into the dough. And we can see that we're already getting some nice stretchy gluten or gluten coming about. So we just work that into the dough. You can see the seeds, you can see the oats kind of worked in nicely. And by the way as well, like this is actually nice bread. This isn't kind of that gross, absolutely flat, gluten-free or like rock solid bread. This is actually really nice to eat. Like I'm not poisoning you with some crappy recipe just for the sake of health. I don't believe in that. Something that's healthy has got to taste good as well. Like that's also health. If you're force feeding food that tastes shit, that's not healthy. And so the protocol moving forward now is I leave this to rest. So I'm gonna cover it with cling film. I'm gonna chuck it somewhere warm. My dojo is really, really warm this time of day. It's basically like a greenhouse. Anywhere from 20 degrees to 30 degrees. The warmer it is, it's obviously gonna proof a lot quicker. I like doing it at about 26 degrees, give or take. Every hour, 45 minutes to an hour or so for the next 3 hours, I'll do a stretch and fold. So that basically means, and I'll put some footage on screen of what that looks like. Basically a process of stretching the dough and reforming it. And this helps build up the gluten structure and the gluten network, okay? Which means that when you come to bake the bread, you'll get a nice kind of even spring, a nice kind of round, full, delicious loaf, okay? You don't need to do that. You just get a better result if you do. Once it's doubled in size, you can then go and shape the dough, basically involving folding the dough over once and then again, rolling up into like a ball thing, placing it in your banneton, which is like a proofing basket. Make sure to use rice flour in the proofing basket, like literally layer the rice flour in there. It will stop it from sticking. Rice flour is your best friend when you're making sourdough. It absorbs loads of moisture. Cover it and then leave it out for another 45 minutes to an hour just to kind of rest in there. and then you fridge it overnight. So by fridging it overnight, you let the bread really develop flavor. You don't need to do this. So like if you're in a rush or you just want it same day, then just like pop it in the freezer for like half an hour just to kind of firm up. You could even just pop it in the fridge for a few hours, then finish it in the freezer for like 20 minutes, just to let the loaf firm up on the edges. Otherwise, when you flip it out, you might find that it kind of flops a little bit because it can be quite a loose dough. The longer you leave this in the fridge, it should develop more flavor to a point. You might get to a point where it over ferments. So you leave it overnight, and then in the morning, the next day, you put it in your Dutch oven, into your oven, preheat it on max around 230, 250 Celsius. Put the Fahrenheit on screen right here. Let it preheat for about an hour to get it really flipping hot. Then turn your dough out, give it a score, add a couple of ice cubes into the Dutch oven. This will massively help with steam. Steam helps the dough spring up and get really big and fluffy. Put the lid on, bang it in the oven for 20 minutes on max heat, so 230, 250 Celsius for 20 minutes. And then remove the lid and bake it for a further 20 to 25 minutes at 210. And then you're done. The stuff's amazing. And what you're gonna do by using bread like this is you're gonna massively pump up your fiber intake for the day. It's a very good idea to aim for like 35 to 40 grams of fiber per day if you can. The evidence and the data we have on dietary fiber is too good to ignore. It literally improves so many markers of health. It can help with weight loss because it keeps you full up for a very long period of time. It also has a very slight thermic effect as well that can be beneficial for things like weight loss. It's amazing for the gut, particularly when you're involving beta glucans and other soluble fibers, particularly with the addition of the chia seeds and the oats. A great rule of thumb when it comes to fiber is aiming for 6 to 8 grams per meal, okay? That's a good way of ensuring that you're gonna get enough per day. You'll hit that 35 to 40 gram mark, give or take. Let me try and figure out what the exact fiber per slice is of this. I'll give it my best shot. I'll pop it on screen here. So this is a great way of bumping up the fiber in a meal, getting some pretty good carbs in there too, some healthy fats. And you can have sourdough with pretty much bloody everything, realistically. I have a whole video on the health benefits of sourdough and everything you need to know about it, so head over to that video for more details. So the reason why the bread's like this is that I basically forgot about it. I actually made the loaf on Thursday and today's Sunday. So that's all that's happened here, is that it's basically just sat in the fridge for like 3 days. So what you get, the bread rises, it proofs, and then it basically just goes back down again, which is why it's this horrible flat little looking thing, but the flavor's amazing. Tastes amazing. So if you do all the steps properly and your starter is ready and you just leave it in the fridge overnight and then bake the next morning, the bread will turn out good, okay? Sourdough is all about time. If you do get into making sourdough or you already do sourdough, you'll know that it is the most hit and miss thing ever. You'll get like amazing loaves that turn out like this on screen, and you'll get ones that turn out flat like this when you forget about it and leave it in the fridge, right? So now I'll send you back over to earlier on in the video, back in time, where I will wrap up the video, I think. So there you have it really. That is the best bread for your gut. Genuinely, I'm pretty convinced. I can't think of a better bread for your gut ever, and it also tastes flipping delicious. So as per the usual, if you like the video, please do like, follow, subscribe, all of that jazz, and stay tuned for next week's video, which could be on frankly anything because I don't plan these videos. So enjoy, let me know how you get on, and I will see you next week.